வணக்கம் ரவி. இன்றைக்கு தமிழ் கருத்துக்களத்தில் 17ஆம் தேதி ஏப்ரல் மாதம் 22ஆம் தேதி கதைக்க இருக்கிற விஷயம் வந்து sovereignty in crisis. ஸ்ரீலங்காவில் நடந்து கொண்டிருக்கிற பிரச்சனை. ஸ்ரீலங்காவில் கடந்த ஒரு மாதங்களுக்கு மேலாக மக்கள் ரோட்டுக்கள்லையும் தெருக்கள்லையும் நின்று போராடி கொண்டிருக்கணும். இந்த பிரச்சனையின் இந்த ப்ரொட்டஸ்டும் அது எப்படியான ப்ராஸ்பெக்டை கொண்டு வருமா, இதுல யார் பங்கு பெற்றது, இதுல என்ன நடக்கிறது, இதன் நோக்கம் என்ன, இதன் இன்டர்னல் நாட்டின் உள் அமைப்புகள்ல இருக்கிறவர்கள் யார் யார் பங்கு பெற்றினோம், இந்த விஷயங்களை பற்றி நான் ரவிசுந்தரலிங்கத்தோட ஒரு கலந்துரையாடல். வணக்கம் ரவி.
Thanks, Ravi. For the purpose of our interview, I think it's better if we speak in English.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hopefully, people who are listening in Tamil, Tamil listeners will understand our reason for switching to English.
Yeah,
so
that's fine.
The first thing is what you said was, how is the protest being done? And I'm going to be very brief. First of all, it is spontaneous. That means Thandawala Anakravisham is self-reliant. In other words, most of the time is actually relying on its own funding and the own way of engineering itself. So it's basically at the moment, as it is, a people's protest. In other words, there is no foreign hands or foreign money involved. Okay, this is what I mean by spontaneous. Spontaneous mean that it's not organized. It's been actual feeling of the people. Second thing is self-reliant. That means people are actually relying on themselves to daily routine. The third thing is the possible, most importantly for us, the outcomes of this protest, the possible outcomes are still open. In other words, it can lead to several answers. The point is, all these answers are at the moment open. So the question is, second question you're asking, who is involved? Who are the people who are involved in this thing? At the moment, is largely Sinhala masses, largely. And is also, you can say loosely, all ages. But if you think about it, it's mainly middle classes and the down classes down below.
Yeah.
These are the people who are actually involved. They are not really joined by the Tamil minority communities, Tamil speaking communities, which I include even the Islamic communities, which are Tamil speaking. Now, all these people, in a way, not really involved because it's still centered around urban areas, urbanized areas, towns, and mainly, if you want to say industrialized or semi-industrialized areas, or where people live and work largely. And most importantly, in the middle Malanatu, that's up countries, you have somewhere like Nuvarelia and Navalapitia and Badula, there are some protests there. So these are the people who are involved in it. Now, the next question you asked, probably, or I'll wait till you ask, what is the reaction or the participation or the attitude of the institutions until now controlling Sri Lankan state?
Yeah.
Which is basically Buddhist clergy and the army and the security.
There is an army person, they are coming into the protest without having a number plate in their vehicle, in their motor bicycle, and coming with their black clothes and with a gun. They come around and go. The police are just watching, they are not doing nothing. They're just telling them to go away.
Exactly. So this is where we have to start to be more vigilant in the sense they are not sure, army as an institution, sorry, not an institute, sorry, my language, institution, how they're going to react. I think they are also unsure. At the moment, the state is in some sense assured of its existence. We'll come to that later. What is sovereignty, what is state, and all that kind of stuff. But at the moment, Sri Lankan state, in some sense assured by the international community, they are not in danger of being toppled. So the problem is the army then is fairly assured that they are in a way protectors of the state and somehow their lives are assured as well. In this sense, the Buddhist clergy has more active role to play at the moment because they want to make sure the state is not in a way toppled, which the outcomes they are not in control. So they are the most unsure people in the sense, would the outcome become anti-religious tendencies?
Yes.
Even if it is anti-state tendencies, until now, state and Buddhist clergy are one in one. Like just like in Britain, you know, sometime when the clergy was sitting in the parliament and in the House of Lords, and then once the people turned against the House of Lords and the House of Things, and then they started to also eradicate the clergy's participants. So a similar problem might happen in Sri Lanka too. So they are vigilant. In the sense they are watchful. They are looking at it and thinking, how do we align ourselves? Do we align ourselves with the army? Do we align us with the state, which we call it executive? And where do we go? This is where we are at the moment in a critical period. So this is what I would say. The question you have to ask now, what are the prospects? I mean, where are we going?
Before the prospects, you know, you said just before there is no minority community involved or anything like that. But we've seen so much of videos coming from Colombo. There's an Islamic community, Islamic women, Islamic men are there actively taking part in the protest. And they also providing food and drink and facilities as well. We see so many of videos, so many of photos. We've seen it. That's only from the Colombo.
True, this is true. But how do we judge this to be a participation by a community or by a small section of the community is a problem. Possibly. Until now,
I agree.
Our gauging mechanism, how do we assess this, is based on how our political leaders are reacting, how our intermediate future leadership is reacting, how is the ground situation in things like Pradesh Sabhas or places like that, Mahana Sabhas, how are they reacting? These are the weather vanes, if you want to say, how we look at it and say, are the community actually participating? So we haven't got the evidence yet that the middle leadership, which are not necessarily the mainstream political party leadership, I'm talking about the community leaders at the lower level. I'm talking about the imams and the local people at a lower level. And similarly for the Tamils, very low level cadres. How are they reacting? How are they thinking about these things? It's not a clear picture yet. But the time will tell. Time will tell. So it is on that basis.
I agree. And also Tamils from Colombo as well, they are in the protest. They are working with them and they're doing. Okay, let's move on. What is the prospect we're going to have, the people going to have? Is who is going to support to those people or the government or the people who are in the protest? And at the end, who is going to, how they're going to, what do you think?
Yes, if you want an answer, straight answer, there are two answers you can say. One is the pessimistic or the negative answer, which I have personally, unfortunately, I'm holding on to it. And the positive answer, which I wish will happen, which I will also expand on it. So there are two answers. If I say to the answer straight away, listen, this protest eventually is going to become a piss-poor subside, and it won't materialize into something substantial. That is how I think will happen. It will end up. Now, why? I will reason it out. But the wishes in a positive side, what I would like it to happen, I don't want that to happen, the negative side. Then we have to see signs, what they should, that will inspire us to think, oh, that's what is going to happen. So in other words, we need evidence that there are some steps these people are taking for which assures us that there is also a possibility of a better outcome than I'm negatively holding in my heart secretly. So the point is, I know recently the protest leaders or somebody like that, there's somebody involved in this protest who were holding meetings the last few days. And we don't know the actual decisions they have made because they haven't published it. They seem to have some idea what is happening. They seem to know the ground situation, but then they are not making it obvious. This is where the critical point also I want to raise about the media. The media itself is very ambivalent. On one hand, it seems to support the protest because the general cause is understandable.
Mm.
At the same time,
Mm.
they don't want to leave the executive intro. So they don't want to stop supporting the state. And in fact, by state, we are also meaning the government completely, because they are hedging the bet on both sides.
Yes.
So that's a clue which I have. In a sense, media is not sure. The people who own the media, they are not sure whether to put their eggs in this basket or that basket. They are in the middle at the moment. They are arguing on both sides. So this is another worry, because the media outlet that these protesters have is very badly organized. It's not really as sound as even the Ukrainians one have, or the Tamils we had at the time, which gave instant information from various sources from very small places in the north and east.
Yes.
So we don't have that network built, so that we brought, people brought it outside. So I'm very disappointed. Groups like JVP.
I agree. Still, we don't know who they are, how they are, what is the communication between people and us and them, and who can support to them or not. What is the philosophy, or what is the clear-cut values they saying? None of them, we don't know exactly.
Not only that, they are not communicating to other communities. You see, the thing is, all is done in Sinhalese, and they don't have
only in Sinhala, yes.
Only in Sinhalese. They don't seem to have the aim or the real reasoning why they should approach the smaller communities. They also forget the idea about the outside media, because outside media plays a big role in bringing in the international focus on these things. Because a lot of people don't even know there's a crisis in Sri Lanka, because Ukraine takes the center pace. See, most of the time, people are looking at it, only those who are concerned, like us, even among us, the Tamil population in here as expatriate communities, for them is a passing information rather than, and they are more interested in Ukraine, seems to be, than Sri Lankan issues.
But
this is a worry.
In Sri Lanka, the people who are doing the protest, and the background is mainly people are suspecting right now is a UNP. UNP is mostly trying to trouble the government and thrown out, and they want to capture the government. That's what their plan. That's what they have, some sort of ideas. This is what the people from the ground, they are talking to me.
Right. These are the thing. This is the thing. So what these are worries, because you can see in any country, because these are states. I mean, Sri Lanka is a failed state. We'll come to that in another section of this interview. But at the same time, just because I'm saying it as if I pronounce it as a failed state, doesn't mean Sri Lanka will go away. It is still there. It is supported by many international communities for their own purpose, right? So for them, Sri Lanka is a nice real estate.
Yes.
Now, if you think about it, if you go back to 20 years ago, they have to either fund the Tamil communities or the Sinhalese government in order to get a piece of land or piece of price in Sri Lanka. Now it's the buyer's market. It's cheaper. Everybody wants to sell it. Now the point is, Sri Lanka is much more vulnerable. It's much more cheaper for foreign involvement in every sense, as a society, as a people, as a real estate, as an executive. Everybody is vulnerable state because it is a failed state. When it's a failed state, it's all failed people. It's not state itself is a failure.
That is, as you say before, like it's going to, sometimes it may come into a theme park of international people. Yeah,
this is what I've been saying. So when there's a hub, it's not a hub. It's not a hub. It's a hobby. It's some kind of a place where you can have a theme park for various groups of people having whatever the interest they have in order to pedal there. Go on. So the question is, what are these decisions?
Finally, what you say, what is the future for this prospect?
Right. So now we come to the
protesters, or how this, whose hand is going to be take over this?
Right. This is a question we would like to answer. So we have to be constructive here. So one, what is that the people who are meeting in their meetings, whatever the meetings, what should they try to do? What would they do, or what should they do if you want to have a positive outcome? Now, the first thing is they have to do some kind of organized structural base of approaching this. In other words, first thing they would like to do, I hope they would do, they should prevent this protest being hijacked or conditioned. I'll explain what I mean by hijacked and conditioned. Okay, hijack means, like you said earlier on, UMP making it into a political vehicle, or it becoming a vehicle, a proxy protest for another country, maybe India or foreign countries or foreign institution like Zorro's institution, who comes to democratize the whole country. You know, they did that in Albania in order to take over Albania. So these kind of, you know, so-called intervention by foreign powerful bodies, they would have a cheaper, as I said, the real estate, cheaper land there. In the sense, land, I mean, not the land, physical land. I'm talking about the space, political space, physical space, as well as mental space, all these spaces. And they have a chance in win, and so that they can hijack it. Second thing is to condition it. Condition it means the Sri Lankan government itself can be part of it. In other words, they put agent provocators into it, hijack the agenda, make the focus more and more become less and less clear, subside it in such a way that it becomes no focus at all. So they get dislodged into asking many things, in the end asking nothing at all, right? So this is conditioning. So that is a possibility, because they will be snooping around, finding who the leaders are, how to approach them, how to get them, how to put them into some kind of trap. And these things can be done. The problem is, can you prevent it? So making statements doesn't prevent it, but structurally approaching it might prevent it. But broadening the fight, broadening the protest to the very local level, rural level, would prevent that in the sense, because you can't send snoopers around every village, every corner, everywhere. And also, everywhere if it spreads, the government as well as any institute from outside must realize this, even if you take it cheap, managing it would be expensive. So the question is, we have to make it unmanageable, unconditionable, by broadening the prospects of the protest. In other words, what I'm saying is, they must broaden their slogans. They must broaden means not losing focus, but it should be inclusive. So first of all, when you involve, if you are saying this is a failed state, if you accept it's a failed state of the, in other words, failed executive, that includes the failure of the people themselves, because they keep electing these bloody states. Okay,
we'll talk about that one in another video.
So that means they have to appeal to other communities and other grievances, because this is what has been left out from the day of so-called independence. So it's been pushed aside, thinking the majority's view and their aspirations are enough to cover for the other people's aspirations. And it doesn't come to be true, unfortunately, right? So they have to broaden it, but it has to be village-based, because in the end, ultimately, our country is even now cannot solve its economic problem unless it's approached village-based. It's not possible. Right, we will come to the economy and a separate issue.
I think that's fine. But this என்ன நான் சொல்ல வரேன்னா, இந்த ப்ரொட்டஸ்டை இப்ப இருக்கிற நிலைமையில டிஸ்மேண்டில் பண்ண இல்ல குழப்பறதுக்கான வேலைகளை யூஎன்பி தரப்பினர் செய்வதாகத்தான். அவர்களுக்கும் இதுகளுக்குள்ள தொடர்பு இருக்கு. அவர்களும் இதுக்குள்ள தான் ஓவர் ரன் பண்ண வேணும், அல்லது கலைக்க வேணும், அல்லது இதை வச்சுக்கொண்டு இலங்கை அரசாங்கத்தை பிரட்டி போட்டு தான் பிடிக்க வேணும். இதே போல இந்த யூஎன்பி சார்பான தமிழ் தரப்புகளும் அவர்களுடைய ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்களும் கூட இப்ப அப்படித்தான் வருது. அதுல டெலோ செல்வம் நேற்று அறிவிக்கப்படுறார், தங்கள்கிட்ட நாட்டை தந்தா தாங்கள் நாட்டை உடனே நிறுத்தி வளர்த்துடுவோம் என்று. எவ்வளவு ஒரு கமோடி பீஸா இருக்குது.
Now, these kind of statements.
சுமந்திரன் ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட்டுகள் சுமந்திரன் சும்மா மஹிந்தாவோட போய் கலக்கிறது இந்த பிரச்சனைகள் எல்லாத்தையும் பார்க்கும்போது இவர்கள் இந்த இன்வால்மெண்ட் நீங்க தொடங்கிட்டு தெரியுது. இன்னொரு சைட்டின் ஒரு இன்வால்மெண்ட் ஆரம்பிக்கப்பட்டு விட்டது. அது எப்படி முடிக்கப்பட போகுதுன்றதுதான் இன்னும் தெரியாத விஷயம். ரவி ஏதாவது சொல்லணும்னா கடைசியா சொல்லி போட்டு இந்த வீடியோ முடிப்போம்.
This is a simple one. As I said, my worry is that it's going to be conditioned, because people like whoever you are talking about, they are talking out of their heads, because they don't even know what is the economy is. So far, I haven't heard anything about national economy from these people you are talking about. Maybe Swandran is a different case, even though personally I have no real affinity with him. But he has been able to say a few things which at least international community will understand what it meant. Therefore, it's not a big issue. So Selvam and other people talking about Sri Lankan economy, they can't even talk about the local economies. I don't know what they're talking about. So it's very difficult for me to understand their statements. I want to comment on it. I don't know.
Can I ask you one thing? This crisis and what do you call whatever is happening in Colombo now, that protest and those things, is it similar to the Arab Spring we had before?
That is much more difficult to compare, because Arab Spring, these are countries where never had democracy, and they never had people power in the sense of their own way of pluralistic manner, because they were religiously organized society. We are, on the other hand, we are traveling the opposite way. We started as a pluralist society. We are going towards narrow paths. We became narrower and more militaristic and more anti-democratic. We are going towards that one. So in our case, we are actually meeting a point where we have to decide, are we going to go like, say, still continue with this like Pakistan and end up with a completely undemocratic state, which is now going to be completely failed, therefore they will close up? Or are we going to open it up so that people can participate to straighten the state? So this is a different question. I mean, Arab Spring is a different context, I think.
Okay, I think Ravi, enough we talk here. I think we'll start another one in a while. Thank you very much.
Thank you.